Welcome to the Generation Fit podcast. I'm Coach Chris with Coach Benji. Today, we went over how to find the time to work out even with a busy schedule and why motivation is bullshit. Enjoy.
Let's go. We got like a billion questions from the fans out there on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. So yeah, the biggest one though, the biggest question that people have and objection that we hear as to why people cannot start their fitness journey is the time constraint bullshit excuse. All right. So I don't have enough time. I work a very busy schedule. I'm working 50 plus hours a week. Like, can't get into the gym. Now, right off the bat, the first thing I think about is why does someone think that that's not enough time that they have left over to get into the gym? That's where my mind first goes, because I think the reason why, we have to ask, why do people actually believe this and have this false belief that they can't work out if they're just working 50 plus hours a week? And it's because all the programs out there, all the coaches out there, and all the people on the internet, all these gurus say that you have to, work out 5 times a week to get into shape. You have to do all this crazy cardio, all these crazy workouts. But sure, maybe there's something to that if you're trying to be the best of the best and you're a bodybuilder on stage, but that's not what most of our base wants. That's not what most people want. They just want to be healthy, leaner, maybe have more of a beach body and not the dad bod, right? So it's a totally different paradigm in which you have to look at it through. So like before I even get into the exact answer of how to do it, that's the first place my brain goes and the question I ask back in return. What do you think about that?
I think the question itself, again, is just, I wouldn't say it's false. I just believe that it's a loaded question. There is a lot behind the scenes about what's going on. It implies a few things. It implies that you do not think you have the time, in which case most of the people I've ever talked to definitely have the time.
Yeah.
Then it becomes, what are you doing currently with your time, and where is the rest of the time going? Right. So it's kind of like a twofold question that breaks down into it. But realistically speaking, most people can actually fit 2 1-hour workouts within a week. We're not here, to tell you that everybody has the same 24 hours. Even though it is true, it doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah.
So instead of me berating you on the time that you're not using properly, what I would say is, how can we utilize the time that you do have to get into the gym or stay in shape? So for the people that give us this objection, I go 2 ways right off the get-go. It's like, do you have access to equipment of any sort? It doesn't have to be at a gym.
Yeah.
It could be a home gym. And some of my clients already do have that. They do work really busy jobs. They come home. They don't want to walk or drive to a gym and back. So they're like, I'd rather just purchase a bench set, dumbbell adjustable set, some bands, a pull-up bar, and then maybe like a TRX or a cable suspension system at home. And that's it. You don't need anything else after that. So if the excuse is going to the gym, then home gym setup is perfect for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a lot of clients that do the home gym setup as well. And everyone has the same 24 hours in a day and whatnot. It's like that does apply after you understand the new perspective of that you can get into shape in about 2 hours of proper lifting a week at, on the lower side of things, but you definitely can do it. It's like, I would say most of my clients go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week and really nothing more other than the overachievers. And then the overachievers find out that like they struggle to adhere to that. And then they just adhere to 2 to 3 times a week and get better results anyway. So, it's just a matter of doing the right things in that period of time, because a lot of people, when we worked in person at gyms for, over in terms of combined experience, 10, 15 years or whatever it is in person, we would see people that had literally come into the gym for 3, 4, 5 years straight and never left looking better once. You know what I mean? Like they would literally come in and like it was great that they made it a part of the routine and there was probably an array of health benefits, but they would come like literally every day, 5, 6, 7 times a week, still not getting into shape, right? Whereas if you do the right things in 2 to 3 times a week, you're going to get into shape, because you're getting a bigger bang for your buck with the time that you're putting in. You're doing it in a more science-based way and something that actually allows you to build muscle and drop fat. So now knowing that, and we'll kind of explain how to set up maybe those workouts as well, but now knowing that, now it's a matter of priorities. Once you know that it is possible and that there's other people that work more than you and get this strategy to work, that there's people working 80, 90 hours and can delegate 2 hours a week to workouts, now the 24 hours, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day applies, because it's just a matter of priorities now as to whether or not you working a 50-hour week and having 50 other hours in your week to be able to allocate towards lifting, if you spend 2 of those in lifting or not, because that's pure priorities at that point.
Mm-hmm. It is all time management and priorities. It actually is that. It's actually a skill that, it's kind of weird to say. It's because I went to college, and a lot of the friends I do have now, some of them went to college, some of them not, and I really don't care in that regard whatsoever. What I do notice, though, is when people do have a college background, their time management somehow is also a little bit better than most.
Yeah.
Right? It's just because it's inherent in the schedule. I think if we break down the stereotypical person and their time frames, I think it helps them understand the options. Because a lot of times I think it's also you're constrained to the worldview that you have, that you go to the job and you come back and you think you don't have time. It's also because if you really look at the time spread, you just think that, I view I look at my phone on Instagram, I scroll down, I doom scroll. Somebody messaged me that the other day. I didn't know that was a thing.
Doom scroll, yeah. Doom scroll, brain rot. Like, there's all these different new dictionary terms this year.
Reddit trolling. There's a whole thing. But I think going into the archetype of the person, I think it actually helps you understand where you can actually fit in your workouts. And look, it's just 2 hours a week, so this is not every day. So if you're the person that goes to work basically a 9 to 5, which I'll explain, most people are actually not a 9 to 5 anymore. It's kind of screwed up. Yeah. So you wake up in the morning. It's most likely at the latest 6:30 to 7 o'clock. Okay. That means you brush your teeth, you do the morning routine, whatever, breakfast, you get to work, and it's, let's just say 8:30 to 9 o'clock. Yeah. Right. Then you get to work. Lunchtime is anywhere between most likely 12 to 1. On average, and then the rest of the day is up to 5 to 6 p.m. is where I start to hear people say like they're leaving about 6 p.m., which means you get home by 7:30, 8 o'clock at the latest. So where can I work out in that time frame? Well, this is what you can control, right? Before work, that means you have to get up at like 4:45 to 5:45, depending on how late you can get into the office. Okay, so that's one reality, which means to set that up, you would have to go to bed early to make sure that you can actually get to the gym that early.
And that would just be 2 to 3. It wouldn't be every day of the week either that you have to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. I would just recommend just trying to get up at that time overall.
Yeah, because then your sleep would be better.
Yeah, your sleep would be better. But that just means that you notice that the consequence is waking up that early, but the actual setup starts from the night before. So I know, yes, you do get home at like 8 o'clock and you're like, I don't have things to do to help me wind down. I think the frame would be here is that overall, this is your goal in the long run. This is my health. This is my fitness. This is the way I want to look and be better for my family, my friends, myself. Yeah. That going to sleep earlier, getting into that workout in the morning, that's for these people. These are the most consistent people we've ever worked with. Ever. Yeah,
it's just how it goes.
Yes. And then let's talk about a little bit about lunchtime. So lunchtime people, this is a trick that I've asked my clients, right? It's being resourceful with all the resources that you have. Yeah. I love that quote from Hormozy. So some of my clients would actually ask their bosses or the people that they report to for a 2-hour lunch break. And that's where, as long as you're like more project-based versus hourly.
Yeah, or if you could somehow stay an hour later even.
Exactly, yeah. So you can stay an hour later, ask the boss, like, hey, I work out at this, I love to work out. It's tough because we have a very tough job and it's demanding. So I would love if I'm able to work out at this time. And then I delegate more time later in the day or earlier in the day, whatever which one it is. So it's still about 8 hours. And I will be more productive for it because I am healthier, fitter for us and the team, right? So I have had plenty of clients that do that. They still do that to this day. And they're amazing. They're the ones that are actually also very most productive because most of these places do have gyms within like a 5-minute reach, or it's actually in the building themselves.
Well, did you ever have someone that did like, let's say they had the hour lunch break and they did like 30 minutes at lunch and then like 30 minutes at the end of the day, or 30 minutes at lunch, 30 minutes in the beginning of the day? Like I've had some people find success with that too.
Not as common, but yes.
But it's not as common. It's probably like a weirder brain, but I have seen it be done.
I think the biggest thing with that kind of group would be the like more the body odor and the sweatness, like the sweatiness.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
right. Just the overall body.
It depends what exercises you're doing. You probably have to do like the isolations at the point where it wouldn't impact, like you wouldn't sweat as much there, and then it's not going to make you be like a sweaty guy at work, and then like you do like the compounds after or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's why this is such a hard one, because that means you would have to have, if you were a business guy like we work with, that just means that you come in the morning dressed up with a certain get up, then you, let's just say, work out at lunch.
Yeah.
Which means you have to shower. Within that 1 hour, you have to shower.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Shower, put on your dress clothes again to go back down.
If you work at home, this is where it'd probably be best if you work at home.
That would make sense. If
because you got your equipment at home, and then you're like, all right, like I have this time now. I don't have a call for the next hour or whatever I'm committed to doing. And then, okay, you get like 30, 40 minutes in there, and then you just finish whatever you need to at the other break in time, basically, because there's a element of it that you dictate your own schedule, or like you can maneuver the pieces a little bit more. So if you have more freedom, then that's something that I've done with like because obviously like we're working from home, right? So like that's something that I've done.
Yeah. If you work from home, then the rules are definitely different. Like basically like you can do like one exercise between like an hour, 30-minute differential between calls. And you can basically do like, for example, an incline press, go to the next meeting, and then go back into the garage and do like rows afterwards. Go to the next meeting. Yeah, I mean, just it's the rules don't apply.
It's like a superset with a phone call.
Yeah, you don't have to be confined to that to that time frame, and that's why I think most people that do go into the job, it's like that's why we talk about these methods. It's like realistically, it's before work, middle of work, and now after work, which is the most common. But I do see some constraint with these, and it's usually because it's the latest time. Everybody's at the gym,
and it's lack of energy, mental exhaustion. I was at work all day. I just want to go home and like lay down. Like that's what you get, right?
Yep. It's the whole I'm beat down. The day took the life out of me. My boss sucks. It's been dragging. Whatever it is, I have a family to get to. So I think the afternoon, nighttime people is really delegated for more of the single guys, the people that have more free time. But if you're a family guy and you have things to do, I really recommend before work,
definitely,
or lunchtime, as long as you're able to handle that with your boss. Then afternoon, nighttime people,
you really have to set your nutrition up the right way too, to like really maximize your energy, and it's tough. Like you have to be like completely hydrated. Like how many people work and they're like not completely hydrated? They don't have enough meals in their body, and then they compensate a little bit and make it work later in the day. Like that ends up being a lot of our clients probably, right? So for them to have the inverse of that and nail every single element perfectly to get to the gym the right way, to have the most energy later in the day, I mean, that's such a big stretch.
So tough. I just recommend for most guys that we work with, if you're single or you have a girlfriend, but like less responsibilities overall.
Yeah.
Then it's like you can go anytime. That's fine, because you come back and you kind of just relax, play video games, watch a movie, whatever. That's like the typical clients we work with. But out of the three options, if you have a family, it's like definitely earlier in the day or at lunchtime. I really recommend lunchtime, especially. It's funny because I think everybody wants to like spend time with their family at the end of the night. Yeah, it makes sense. They want
hopefully
to.
I mean, maybe you don't. Maybe you're like, screw my family, but
yeah, I just think lunchtime is the most preferable. And trust me, if you ask your boss and ask them in a way where it's you are healthier, you are fitter and sharper, therefore your productivity is going to be more for the team, your company, the person you work for. Most of the time they won't say no, as long as you say it like that, versus, all right, I want to work out at 12 o'clock. All right, give it to me.
Yeah, like I work out at 12 and like get an extra lunch break hour. Like then they'll just be like, no, what the fuck? Right. But if you're like, hey, like I've always been a healthier person, and because of me being healthier, I've been a better employee because of that at every job I've ever worked, or at this position as well, whatever it is. And, I'm finding it difficult with just an hour break, but I noticed that, the office is still open an hour later, whatever it is. Could I work that extra hour later and be even more productive in that hour and be able to get my workout in the middle of the day because I'm a better employee for it? Mm-hmm. You could even put this is like marketing 101. You could put a risk reversal in there, like a guarantee, right? Like you put that risk reversal in there, be like, if I am not equally productive or more productive, then like you could take that privilege away from me right away. Because if you're not bullshitting and you actually mean that, which if you're listening to this, you probably do, then, put that risk reversal in there too, a little guarantee.
We've been doing a lot of marketing research.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, so that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You want to go into the next question from our raving fans?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see those questions.
Okay,
let me look at those life questions. All right. So let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, all right. So, lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, busy schedule goes into one. So, let's see. Lack of time, Man,
You see that guy? He said, "How do you work pole dancing into your routine?" Did you see that? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You don't.
You guys gotta make time for that.
This was the most common one, I would say. So, Benji,
Yeah.
I have a lack of motivation to keep going into the gym.
Okay.
I feel too tired or unmotivated to start or stick to a program because I'm not seeing progress in a time frame that I do not like.
Okay. That's a very loaded question. That's the most ultimate question ever. Okay. So there's two answers I could give to this. I could give the motivational answer, but it's not necessarily the right one. The motivational answer gets someone motivated to go to the gym now, but it doesn't keep them consistent later because, like, well, if I'm being motivational in a way, it's like you don't need motivation. You need inspiration and a deeper drive to want to do something in the first place. Motivation only lasts you one moment. Motivation is a moment, like in the moment thing. Now, the truth is you don't need motivation. Like you need to have a deep why and like all that basic stuff. You do have to have a deep why, but it's not the motivation why you can't get into the gym, right? Like even in the phrasing of the question, it's like, I'm not seeing results as quickly, so I'm not motivated enough. Or, you know, a lot of times it will be, I'm not motivated because in the back of people's heads, it's, I feel like I need to go to the gym 5-6 times a week for hours on end. Well, of course you're not going to be motivated enough to do that. Or I don't have enough energy, right? These are all the things that are inextricably connected to lack of motivation. But it's not the motivation itself. Like you already know that you have to get into the gym. Like you already know that you should. So I could give a motivational speech right now and you know, you'd get your ass in the gym and then you just come back next week and say, hey, you know, I just don't have enough motivation, right? Because it's something that does not last. So the first place my brain goes to is how can we educate this person on what they actually need? If it's not motivation, what is it? And one, it's the knowledge that, like we just described in the last question, is that you can get into shape in about 2 hours a week, 2 1-hour workouts. That's one of them. Typically when people tell me they're not motivated and I say, hey, this is what my clients do, would that sound a lot easier? Would you need as much motivation then? They say, oh, like I could do that then. Right? So instantly, like the motivation thing is like a non-factor anymore as soon as I say that. And then if it's energy, it's like, yeah, we can identify how can we be more energetic? How can we optimize your sleep, your stress management, your nutrition to have more energy? And, you know, quite, it seems contradictory, but it's true. It seems like a paradox, but it's true, is that you'll actually have more energy in the long run as a result of working out. So it's like you think, oh, I'm going to work out, I'm going to have even less energy than I already do. It's like, no, like you work out and now it's like a natural stress reliever. Your sleep is going to be better. Your hormone production is going to be better. And that's going to increase your energy in the long run, not decrease it. So that's where the first place my brain goes to, because there's so much in that question. But to sum up kind of my answer is that motivation is not the problem. Sure, there's a time and place to give motivational speeches and listen to Tony Robbins, throw him on the radio or whatever it is. But like, it's not motivation that you need, because that will only get you so far anyways. It's the right strategy and the right plan that will actually get you a result and allow you to then pretty much have that positive feedback loop of, now I'm getting this positive result, I want to keep going back and doing it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it's a great way to take at it. It's setting the standard. I think it's we know what the end goal looks like.
Yeah.
Everybody sees the movie star, right? The Daniel Craig James Bond, the Brad Pitt Troy, I guess Zac Efron from Baywatch.
Yeah.
is the new one.
Before his face got all messed up.
Before, I don't know what the hell happened on Botox. The whole point is you're setting this massive expectation, which is great. You have a macro goal. It's like the whole, I'm going to be a millionaire. I want to make $1 million this year.
Yeah.
But the whole point is you have no systems in between to get the micro wins, or at least any sort of metric to gauge whether you're on the right path, right? So motivation itself is fleeting. At any given moment, you can feel unmotivated to do something, especially if you have a child, if you have a family, distress with anything, health, whatever it is in life. So it can kick you in the nuts. Next thing you know, you're like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to eat healthy, whatever it is. So what I tell people about motivation is that you just have an improper view of how to get there. You don't have the metrics to understand what it takes to actually get to the end goal. In our case, it's enlightening you guys and our clients to understand that it doesn't have to be dad bod to six pack right away. Like there's a big gap in between.
Yeah.
A massive gap. So in terms of motivation, we tell people there's steps along the way, and here are literally the steps that we look for, and always tell people these are big steps along the way. At the beginning, it's all about just being consistent. Like you went from doing nothing to being consistent. That's a small win. Like, yeah, you don't have a six pack. Great. It's only been like a couple weeks. Then step 2 is like, all right, now you're starting to have more energy. Yeah. Right. You're being more productive.
And by the way, that's the hardest part is like just being consistent, getting into the gym. All the other pieces will follow. Like that's a big win.
Yeah, it's consistency is number one. That's why the first month is like us reinforcing, us being on top of everybody. It's like, look, you just need to get to the gym. You just need to start eating healthier. Yeah. It's as simple as that, right? The next month is, all right, instead of being like you still have a six pack, but the whole point is, hey, you have lost a few pounds. Hey, you have put on a little bit of muscle. Hey, you got stronger in some of those lifts, right? You still don't have a six pack, right? But your brain is up here, but you got to think to yourself, it's starting to add up, starting to get these small wins, right? Then month 3 is like the drastic changes happen. Then you're like, oh my God, my waist has gotten smaller. My pants start to feel a little bit looser around here. I have to get new pants, new dress shirts. Sure. From there, then it's compounding way faster, way more for that 6 months to a year time. But the whole point is that you don't just look at, I have six pack and I'm fat here. It's like, what about these little wins? Consistency, energy. There's no motivation in these. It's literally like, I'm getting stronger. I have better energy to play with my kids. I have newer clothes because I have thinner waists, more muscles. Right. So motivation itself is just also, I also believe a lack of understanding between the end goal and where you're starting from.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people let the distance between where they are now and their goal crush them into not actually pursuing their goal because they see all these people on the internet who look amazing and they are setting that standard for themselves that they have to look like that within a week of going to the gym. And then when they ultimately don't and they barely notice any changes, they say, oh, I'm going to give up because it's my genetics or I don't have enough time or whatever it is. But the truth is, one, it's like you have to, there's a specific way you have to go about setting a goal. It's like there's a reason there's like the, not algorithm, acronym called like the SMART method of setting goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, retarded. No, I don't know. What is the R?
Yeah, it beats me on top.
I can't remember. And then T is timely, right? So it's like specific. It wouldn't be like, I want to look amazing in, a little bit of time from now. Like that would not be a very good goal, but that's what people think. It's like, I want to start to get in shape. Mm-hmm. I want to look great. Okay. Well, what specifically do you want? How much do you weigh now? Okay. You're 250 pounds at 6 foot tall. You want to get to 200 pounds. So the end goal is 200 pounds, right? But SM, now I'm trying to think of like
measurable.
Okay. So that is a measurable goal also. It's a specific poundage. You're not just saying, I want to look like a bodybuilder. I want to look like Zac Efron. Like that's not a measurable thing. Like you cannot measure that, so you can't measure your progress, right? And then attainable. Is this an attainable goal? If you were saying, I want to look like the best bodybuilder in the world, that's not attainable. Like even if you did all the steroids under the sun, it's not attainable. But if you said, I want to drop 50 pounds in the course of 10 months, is that attainable? Yeah, that's attainable, right? It's not, I want to drop 500 pounds in this next year. That's not attainable, right? If you were 600 pounds overweight, I guess. So, right. And then we go into timely, right? Like, are you just saying, yeah, like later this year, I'd love to get into shape? Or are you saying like within this next 8-month period, I'd like to get this specific result? So like if you compare the two now on like a T chart almost, it's like, yeah, sometime later this year in 2025, like I'd love to get into shape. I'm going to get in shape. Or like, in the next 8 months, I'm going to drop 50 pounds. I'm going to build muscle. I'm going to have a visible outline of my abs. And I'm going to track this month to month. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Like, that's a much more specific goal that allows you to track it and that is attainable. Like, one works because you can see week to week and month to month the progress you're making towards that goal. And the other one doesn't work because the only thing you see week in and week out is how far away you are from your ultimate goal in your head. So you have to set goals in that way and not the other way. I think it's the way in which you set goals to just go off of like what you were saying before of like people, thinking, becoming demotivated because they're not at their goal yet. Mm-hmm. But it's like if you just set this large macro goal, like it's going to be unattainable in your mind because you're not even close to there yet. And it's the only thing you're measuring yourself up against. Whereas like, imagine like this hypothetical scenario where there's like gold in the middle, like you're at the gold rush and you know that there's gold in the middle of like the side of like this mountain, and like you have to chisel away at this stone every day, and like you know that like if you chiseled for 6 months and you did like 10 meters a day, let's say, that like at the end of 6 months that 10 meters a day would add up to the gold. And you chisel 10 meters today and like there's nothing, and then 10 meters the next day and there's nothing, but all your mind is fixated on is the gold and not the amount of meters that you chiseled in, well, then you're going to give up because you're only thinking about the gold and how far away it is. But if you're like, I did my job today, I chiseled the 10 meters. Tomorrow, you go to bed saying, I did my job today, I chiseled the 10 meters. Well, then ultimately the gold is just a natural reward of you doing the daily tasks that you find fulfillment in. So like you have to divorce the task that you're doing day to day from the ultimate outcome, and that's where the actual fulfillment will come, and that's where you actually get the reward that you want at the end of the tunnel.
If you're enjoying this podcast, share with a friend who also is looking to get into the best shape of their lives. All right, back to the show. In terms of motivation for starting, right? Starting to work out. I think a practical thought with this is that you will basically have 3 major options. So right now is if you need to get motivated to get started, the only thing you really need is just more pain. It really is. It's like the pain right now of feeling like you don't have a girlfriend because you're ugly, because you don't look good for yourself. You're not proud of who you are in your skin. That's 1. 2 is, you eat whatever you want. You keep fulfilling that dopamine rush, whatever. It just keeps going back and forth. You end up still fat or too skinny, whatever it is. Yeah. You're not comfortable in your skin. So you're not changing. So I think the motivation to get started is basically 3 major options. You basically don't start, and then you still look the same. You don't get the result that you want. You do start, you don't get the result because you don't have somebody helping you and guiding you. That's the second one. The third one is you try, and you actually get the result.
Yeah.
All 3 of them is all your decision, and then the one that gets you to the result is at least trying.
Yeah, there's only one option. There's only one way to find out, right?
Yeah, so if you're saying I need to get motivated to start, you already know the answer. The answer is in front of you. It's just to start. It's controlling the inputs. Yeah. Every single time somebody tells me I want to get motivated to start, like I'm motivated to get started, I don't know where to start. I always just tell them, buy the gym membership, put on the shoes, go get the membership, do it.
Yeah.
Set a time every day. You see how I know like the whole thing of getting in shape is this big macro portion. And it's like, what are the steps below that? And it's like, look, if I have to teach you to put on your shoes, wake up at a certain time, don't even worry about like how to exercise just yet. Just do these things where they build the habits to get to the gym.
Yeah.
So if it goes, I need to go to bed by 9:30. Okay. Why? I have to get up at 5 a.m. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you have to do at 5 a.m.? It's like, I probably just slam a shake, tie my shoes, brush my teeth, hopefully I have some clothes on, and now I go to the gym.
Hopefully. Yeah.
If I have to say every single one of these things to you just so you hear it and know like, oh, I actually have to do these things to get to the gym at 6 a.m., then yes, I think some of you do need to hear that.
Yeah, there's much less unknown, right?
Right. So you got to clear that out. A lot of times you're just scared. You're fearful of the unknown, which we are too. I'm not saying I'm perfect in every regard.
That's a human trait.
I'm just saying in this given instance that we have worked with in fitness for so long, the motivation to start comes down to 3 options. 1 will get you the result. The other 2 you can still control, but you won't get the result. But guess what? The inputs are still the same. You still have to go to the gym or do the things that make you more fit to be fit.
100%. No, I totally agree. That was really good. And like, that's the whole thing, right? Is that the people who do get the best results. Now, you don't have to get the tip-top result and be the best in the world by any means, but ultimately the people who, if you are going to take this seriously, the people who do the best are the ones who show up on the days even when they're not motivated. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not motivated in that given moment. They might not have the utmost energy in that day, or they might have had the worst day ever, but like they remove all of that emotion from the ultimate goal of what they really want, right? So like the why for why you're going to lift weights is far more important than the motivation day in and day out, right? Because the initial why that you should have, I guess if we're going to use like the definition of motivation we've been using, should be plenty to get you to the end line, because you should always know like, okay, I want to get into shape because I want to be there for my wife and kids as a provider. I want to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle. I don't want to be in a wheelchair experiencing my grandchildren's life. Okay, so you know that. So do you need fucking daily any more daily motivation than that? Like, do you need to tell yourself that you had the best day or the most energy to do that? Or is it only making the problem worse in the long run and allowing that harsh, hopefully alternative reality to really come true if you're not taking action on that? Like, which is the better choice? Which direction would you rather walk in, regardless of how unmotivated or motivated you are day in and day out? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, humans are driven a lot more. There's two ways you can be driven. It's in desire and fear. But what I've noticed from talking to so many people that were considering embarking on a fitness journey is that it's the fear that motivates them the most into doing what they want to do and sustains that motivation. It's not the desire. So it's like, I want to get into shape. I want to look good. Or, if it was finances, I want to make more money. I want my business to grow. Like, why? Like, do you just want to see that number on the scale or that number in your bank account? Or is it something else? Right? And typically what we find, it's, I don't want to be on my deathbed alone. I don't want to look back in my life and have the 5 pictures flash before my head and see that I was not the person that grew as an individual. I had a fixed mindset, that I look back and I felt like I was a loser, that I didn't take action when the opportunity presented itself, and that I wasn't there in full capacity for my wife and for my kids, for my friends and for my family. Right? That's a pretty scary thought. And that's the reality of what happens with a lot of people. So now think about how horribly frustrating and depressing that would be, and then do everything in your power to run the other way from that. And that's all the motivation you need.
Actually, I really wish I had the statistics in front of me. The numbers to just be the top 10% of all men in the world in a physical shape. I'm pretty sure it's, most men can't do 90% of men can't do 3 pull-ups, full range of motion pull-ups. Most men cannot perform 10 full range of motion chest to floor push-ups. 10, right?
Yeah.
Most men can also not run 1 mile in under 10 minutes. Right, which is pretty brutal. If you think
I think I can knock it out in 8 now. Well, this is the leanest I've been. I could probably crush it now.
Yeah, even without trying. I mean, just lifting, being a lifter.
Yeah.
It's the same energy systems. So
this is bad.
So I probably could still nail it in probably around 8 minutes without even thinking about it. I'd be sore, but I could definitely.
But you could do it.
I could definitely do it. Yeah,
you could run away from a lion if it was chasing you. That's what.
I could definitely sprint. I could definitely sprint. I ain't running away for that thing after 10 seconds though. I ain't sprinting longer than 10.
First 10 seconds.
Power endurance is not on my side of things right now. But no, I think that's good. It's really just how much fear, what's the desire, your metrics are off, your perception of the goals are off. And realistically speaking, if you're always looking for motivation for anything to do anything, then it becomes the thought process is incorrect. It's what can I do to achieve that goal, not what can that goal do for me, and how far away am I from that goal, which is what motivation is used for.
Completely.
To be like, I want to keep going at basically a golden ticket from the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yeah.
In which case, you ain't gonna find it because, well, he's molesting kids. But whatever.
Willy Wonka molested kids?
Isn't that the whole premise of the story?
What?
Yeah, isn't that the whole I
didn't think so.
Oh, I thought that was the reason why they got into the factory, and then they leave and they all die.
It was like a Willy Wonka Diddy party. Like, what the fuck? Wait. Let's segue really quick.
I thought that was like the whole conspiracy theory with all these Disney movies and all that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's like the whole Peter Pan is like the lost boy who wants to bring him back.
Gotcha.
And he's already dead, and he's like, if you're the only reason you stay young forever is because you're dead.
Yeah.
All right. This is the conspiracy theory with Willy
That's
Wonka.
the one with Willy Wonka, but that's not. But the Peter Pan one is true. Like that's what it means, right? Like that's exactly what it means.
Well, I'm just
like
saying,
I don't think that's a good spirit. Like I think that's fully like the meaning. Otherwise, it's just a random movie, right? But like the Willy Wonka one, that's crazy.
He sends out golden tickets to kids and their families so they can
like lures them in
to abduct the kids. Yeah.
See, this is what I thought, because if you look at the end of the movie of Peter Pan, it proves that message true. But like with Willy Wonka, right? Is not the point that Charlie was the only honest one and he didn't expect the result out of his honesty? Everyone was cheating to get to where they wanted to get.
Yes.
And his honesty got him to where he wanted to get. And the only reason he was able to control the factory is because he divorced. Basically what we're talking about now is like he divorced the outcome from like his honesty.
His honesty, yeah.
I thought that was the point of the story, not the molesting kids part. Now, like, I don't know if I could ever watch this movie again.
All these child movies just ruined, absolutely thrown out the window, absolutely ruined. So that's basically what's going on now.
Chris just ruined everything for everyone.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you got value from this podcast, subscribe. Follow us on our Instagram handles. Mine is Coach_Chris Lee.
Mine's BenjiTucker.fit.
Have a good one, guys.
Good one.